What it do, Chase crew? It's Chase GG here, and welcome back to another video. And today we will be giving my first impressions of the Switch 2. My Switch 2 purchasing experience was actually quite interesting because I had access to the pre-order of the Switch 2, but decided not to pull the trigger because of financial reasons. So yes, I ended up waiting outside of Best Buy for around 6 hours in order for me to get access to one of these bad boys right here off rip. Now, the only game that I got with the Switch 2 was actually Mario Kart World. Everything else is kind of games I already played, so I'm not really too interested in it. It may not have had the best launch, but it definitely looks promising in the future. Now, unboxing the Switch was truly a premium feel. The box felt amazing. The packaging was nice. Everything was nice. The setup experience was relatively easy. If you already have a Switch, then you can just buy this Switch, plug it up, connect to the internet, and transfer all of your data from your old Switch into your new Switch. And it literally just becomes another Switch. First off, I will have to say the Joy-Cons and just the quality and how they feel and how they just feel like they belong on the Switch is just truly mind-blowing. Like, I really like how durable they feel, and I also like the new way that you can take them off. Honestly, just using this rear leg right here, it's truly amazing. The older Switch felt more like a toy. You know, it was fiddly, you can wiggle it and all that extra stuff, but the new Switch, it truly felt amazing in my hands, especially since it's larger and, in my opinion, a little more ergonomic compared to this little guy. But even if you listen real closely, you can hear. However, when you grab this Switch and listen, there's like almost little to no play at all. Don't even get me started on the screen. The screen itself, oh boy. When I first turned on the screen and started playing, it was truly impressive. Honestly, I think that the LCD screen on the Switch 2 is better than the OLED screen on the Switch 1, in my opinion. It just feels more crisp, especially the 120 Hertz display feels amazing. And another thing that I noticed is that the triggers on the top feel way better than the triggers on the old Switch. They were all wiggly and finicky, but these feel like they belong on the controller just seamlessly. It's impressive. And then the last thing about the build quality, one thing that I really appreciate is the new kickstand. I really like how they made it hollow, but it's still very sturdy and it can go all the way down. And I really appreciate that. And then I also really appreciate the fact that it has a USB-C charging port on the top of the Switch. So when you mount it or when you're doing something with it that requires it to be on the table, you're still able to charge the Switch without having to, you know, go through any inconveniences or anything like that. And personally, I didn't really think I would use that feature much until I really started owning the Switch. And sometimes, you know, I may be at work and on my free time, I would just play and have it low profile. And while I'm doing that, I'll be able to plug on the top so it can stay charged up while I'm still playing on the Switch. Now, getting into the performance of the brand new Switch 2, I am truly impressed. Like, I knew it was going to be better, obviously, but even playing the new Mario Kart World game, it was just mind-blowing on how good a Nintendo game can look and how it feels like supreme quality. And then I would definitely say that the Switch 2 feels a lot faster than the OG Switch. When I was playing Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it felt way smoother. Like, I can't believe that I was playing that game on the original Switch now that I experienced how it feels on the Switch 2, because man, it's a night and day difference. So next thing I want to get into is how the Switch handles heat. Now, it's nothing new about the Switches getting hot, especially under a lot of load being in the dock. I think that Nintendo did a really good job with the Switch 2 on dissipating heat while it's in the dock. I'm pretty sure the dock now has fans as well, but also the larger ventilation system on the Switch 2 significantly helps keep it cool. So now it just gets warm but it's not like concerningly hot where you start worrying about your console and stuff like that. They truly done a way better job on keeping the Switch 2 cool compared to the Switch 1. The battery life on the Switch 2 is pretty trash. I'm not even gonna lie. I would be playing it and it would be like on 90%, but within like an hour and a half, it'll already be around like 60 or like 50-ish. I don't know what it is, but the battery life on the Switch 2 is not the greatest, if I'm being honest. So with all this talk about the Switch 2 and how great it is, you're thinking about upgrading to the Switch 2, it really depends on your goals, but if you're a heavy Mario Kart fan, then I would say go for it. Buy the upgrade, and eventually it's gonna have more games for you to play and enjoy later on. However, if you're not huge on Mario Kart and you're not really a big Nintendo enthusiast, I personally would say to hold off on upgrading to the Switch 2. It's essentially the same thing, but just better. And it's kind of like upgrading from like one iPhone to another. Now, don't get me wrong, the hardware jump is significant. However, it's not significant enough, especially with not enough games being out yet, or I would say new games being out yet, for you to really experience how good the Switch 2 really is. So if I had to recommend the Switch to somebody specifically, or a specific group of people, I would definitely recommend the Switch 2 to people that have not bought the Switch at all. If you haven't bought the Switch at all, I would highly suggest you start with the Switch 2. All the games will feel new to you. So not only will they feel new to you, but you also get to experience them at the best quality yet. You feel me? So it's not gonna really be like, oh, I'm just replaying these games at a higher quality. No, you're starting fresh. If you currently own a Switch and you already played the games like Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, and you don't really feel like replaying it at higher quality, or you don't really care for Mario Kart, then I personally would say to hold off on the Switch 2, at least for like a year or two, until they have more games and titles that are actually on here. My final thoughts on the Switch 2, and if I'm happy that I got it. First off, I am extremely happy that I have purchased this wonderful beast of the next gen Nintendo. I'm truly excited to see what it has to offer in the future. The new Mario Kart makes me look forward to how Mario can look, or how good the Mario games can look. However, one thing that I don't like is how expensive they're gonna make the games. I don't like that at all. So anyways, those are my thoughts and first impressions on the Switch 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm definitely going to be recording more content.
Stop the cap!
And getting back into content creation, as I have been taking a long break. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and if not, at least found it entertaining. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.